All right, good people. It says I'm live. So if you can hear the sound of my voice, that means that you are in the right place. Um, if you were here last week, then you know why I'm here this week. We are talking all things resumes. Well, I would say resumes and technology. I am Sana Rasul, Chief Girlfriend at HR Girlfriends. You see that we have Wesley Brock. I call him Wes, so I will be shortening his first name throughout today's conversation. And I'm sure, hopefully, he doesn't mind. Um,
Not at all.
not at all. But tonight, HR Girlfriends and IdealResume.com have come together yet again in our amazing partnership to talk about what we have in store for you. So last week, what we did was we talked a lot about resumes and applicant tracking systems and really the barrier between you, the job seeker, and the job opportunity, the interview, right? Because I can't tell you, even today, literally today, how many times I've seen Wes in groups, whether it's the job seeking groups, even random groups. I'm in this social group in San Diego called Girl Time San Diego. Shout out to the Girl Time San Diego girls. And they're talking about, I can't get anybody to call me back. Is anybody else hiring? And sure, people are hiring. And it doesn't make sense to my brain in HR because I know that people are hiring. I know that people are quitting jobs. Those jobs are open because those people are my clients and other people's clients that I talk to. So there's a true disconnect between what job seekers are saying and what clients are saying. And so a part of the problem, obviously, is people's resumes are going into the black hole. And we talked about last week how to get your resume from not getting into the black hole and how to get through technology. Because before you can impress a hiring manager or a recruiter, you have to impress technology. You have to have your resume do the technology word dance, right? With the applicant tracking system. You have to impress that thing. You have to say the right thing. You have to collaborate and take your words and make them all make sense. This applicant tracking system has to feel like you have enough credit in the employment section and all those other areas. It's like what do they call it? A science and an art to the whole situation. And while we get a lot of advice, or at least I know in HR, we give a lot of advice, and I'm sure as a job seeker, you get a lot of advice. I think we're here to help you debunk some of those myths by actually showing you an actual technology tool that's going to help you get straight to the hiring manager, to the recruiter. I would rather you be interviewed and not get the job because you put your best foot forward and there was just better talent than for you to never be called, never be pre-screened. That's a different conversation if you're never contacted, right? I think you would agree. Are we correct, Wes? Do you agree?
Absolutely, totally agree with that. I think you said it really well that there really does seem to be a disconnect because I hear the same thing every day too from many job seekers that talk about how they can't even get a call back, let alone an interview, to not even get feedback as to why they weren't considered. So there is, I think, a big disconnect, and that's yeah, same here. I'm excited to talk about that to try to bridge the gap between that disconnect and passing on some of that insight and knowledge to the job seekers and anyone else really that it can really help. I think.
Absolutely. So, we're going to do a lot of what we did last week. And instead of doing a lot of talking abstractly about resumes, we're going to save that for our webinars. And we're going to do a plug for our webinars right now. And then we'll jump right into scanning and looking at real resumes. Because if you've been getting our news, looking at our social media for HR Girlfriends, we've been asking you, our followers, our newsletter recipients, for your resumes because we wanted to actually get real resumes, real scenarios. But we're going to ask you to save the date, December 14th. We are doing a webinar for job seekers. And December 15th, we're doing a webinar for executive recruiters, corporate recruiters. We're doing a webinar for career coaches, really anyone who is a resume writer, anyone who deals with job seekers. If job seekers is your audience, if that's who you serve, December 15th is for you. We're putting on a webinar where we're going to show you some really insightful things that you may or may not know about how the applicant tracking system actually works, how it's working in and for and against you and your clients, right? But also, we're going to show you how this technology can boost your job prospects on December 14th and can also help you build clientele on December 15th because there's nothing better than taking a piece of technology and creating revenue streams. And so we're going to show you how to do all of that on those 2 days. You can RSVP on hrgirlfriends.com under our events. And we'll tell you that again before we leave today. But let's get going. I know that you're going to share your screen, Wes.
I
We're
am.
going to show them how it gets done.
Absolutely, yeah. And just like we did last time, I really tried to set it up with only the necessary things done ahead of time for expediting time-wise, but
Mhm.
otherwise, we're really trying to do it live. I've just kind of queued up a couple of searches for related job descriptions, have a few resumes lined up, and then we're really going to try to approach it as if we're the job seeker doing this ourselves for the first time. So
Mhm.
I'll pull up that screen share now. I've got one queued up for us, and then we'll jump right into it as soon as I can get that
Absolutely.
shared.
And while he does that, hopefully you are pulling in whoever's in your household, your colleague if they're next to you, depending on your time zone, so you can show them how this technology is working. And again, this is real life stuff. So, whose resume are we looking at now, Wes?
Yes, we have the clinical nurse manager resume, and let me just make sure I can jump through these tabs. And are you now?
Okay, hold on a second, Wes. We're going to get this going. Okay, let's do it.
Excellent. Okay, so we have I have the tab here for ideal resume, and then the job description. Are we good seeing that on your end?
Yeah, I can see it. Can you?
Perfect. So here is the resume that we've got pulled up here. It's a clinical nurse manager as the job title for this particular candidate. So I've gone ahead and copied this resume. I've got that pulled up, and then I put that into Ideal Resume. And then this was the job description I grabbed. I just did that on ZipRecruiter, just put in that same job title, clinical nurse manager. And I think we're in the Maryland area here. And I just took the very first result that popped up. So that's the job description I grabbed, copied it, and then here it is already pre-baked, so to speak, here in Ideal Resume. And we've got our score for this particular one. This resume scores a 71%. So a really nice starting point in this case. And for context, if you were here last week, you saw a little bit of this, but just to give you context of how we arrive at that score, we're analyzing the skills. So the job description we fed in here to Ideal Resume, there it is right there. We're analyzing all of the skills and requirements from that job description, and then we're comparing it to this resume that we fed into the system as well. And right here, we can see that there's just two skills missing actually from this resume. So if this candidate has these two skills, for example, case management, there it is highlighted in the job description. It said provide clinical oversight to clinical staff, may be required to provide case management. So there's that skill, that keyword. And the other one is wound care. That pops up several times, actually, 4 different places in this job description. So this candidate, if this happened to be the job they were applying to, they could very easily, if they possess these skills, go ahead and add these to their resume and then click reanalyze, and then they would see a really nice improvement right off the bat there. In fact, let's just put that in real quick and see what that does for us. Case management, and we'd obviously want to work this into a logical sentence for real life use, but let me just paste it in here in the middle of one of these bullet points. And then let's hit reanalyze and see what our score does there. We think we were at 71% to
Mhm.
start with. We've added in one of our missing keywords. We go up to 72%, and we see that skill is no longer there. all we've got is wound care. So we could add that one in too and see what it does. So there's a great example to start with. I think, Sanaa, we had a candidate whose resume was pretty close, but the system could alert them to a couple of really quick and easy optimization opportunities there.
Absolutely. Now, what's the optimal score that any one job seeker is looking for to match to a job description?
That
So I put my resume in, independent of the recommendations, no matter how I get there. What's that percentage?
That's a great question. I would say that, first of all, the score that we have on Ideal Resume is sort of just a general barometer, a benchmark for you, because a lot of applicant tracking systems allow for different kinds of filters. You can kind of pull different levers, so to speak, to put more emphasis on education match and so forth. So this is just giving you a really good starting point. And to get to a good point where you're likely to be in the top mix of resumes in an ATS dashboard, we suggest aiming for 70% or higher. So in this
Gotcha.
case, this candidate, if they couldn't do anything else, if they don't have that other skill or in anything else that might be missing, I would say they'd be at a pretty good position applying with this particular one. Aside from a few things, I would recommend to this candidate if they were going to apply to this one regarding the template. I would address a few formatting things before submitting it to make sure none of the ATSs out there have any issues with it. But 70% or higher is usually a good starting point for a candidate.
Absolutely. And I see that industry does not have a green check. Can we take a look at that?
Yes, it says the candidate has experience in nursing that is specifically related to nursing vocations and certifications. The candidate lacks experience in clinical. So, industry match is a broad mix of taking all of the skills in this resume
Hmm.
and then trying to categorize them within a field and then any subfields below that. So, we saw there that it said nursing. So, the candidate has experience in nursing. It's specifically related to vocations and certificates. The candidate lacks experience in clinical. So sometimes what can actually happen is a candidate can be appearing almost overqualified, or they have other skills that don't relate to the specific job they're applying to. And
Hmm.
sometimes it can actually be to the benefit of the candidate to take out skills that don't relate to that specific job description. Doesn't mean gut the whole resume or anything, but a candidate could kind of go look and see, do I have any skills in my resume that kind of go far above and beyond what this particular job description is? And then maybe consider pulling some of those out, because some candidates have decades of experience and they can't sometimes possibly include everything in their resume. So this can be used to kind of help them know what to focus on any given scenario.
Absolutely. I noticed that there's this fine print that says, "Good news, we found 25 jobs matching your resume." What's that all about?
That is a feature we are actually updating here over the next 2 weeks. Right now, what we're doing is just trying to make it even easier and more convenient for the job seeker, because we figure they're here to look for jobs. They are looking for job opportunities. And
Hmm.
to enhance their resume, we might as well show them other job opportunities we found from across the web. So we're bringing in job openings that are current live from across the web and then showing them below the analysis. So, oops, I hit the wrong one there. Let me go back. Let me jump back into the dashboard here. We're showing jobs that match the job title that they provided us with, and
Hmm.
then giving them additional possibilities to consider there. Let me just jump back into this job description.
Okay.
And that's what that is. But what we're going to be updating, which we're really excited about, is that these job listings are
Oh,
going to go beyond just the job title in the next couple of weeks with Ideal Resume. We're actually going to show relevant job matches based on the skills in their resume, not just the job title. The idea being, we think it will help candidates find even more opportunities that they may not have otherwise considered, because a job title alone, as we all know, does not ever encompass everything a candidate does. So instead, we're going to be extracting their top skills from their resume, sending that out to match it against job openings, and then we're going to show those below.
trust me, we're in HR. We have tons of discussion, healthy discussion about the use of various titles. What does this title mean? What does that title mean? Why do we get paid the same thing, but your title seems to have a higher ranking or carry more weight in the industry than my title?
Right.
So that would be amazing to get at least 25 leads based on my skill set, right? Because titles tend to lose power when that's typically what we're skimming for. On Indeed, that's what we're skimming for. We're not
Absolutely.
skimming for skill, we're skimming for title, and then we start fine tuning it down. But to have something automatically search out based on our skill set, and what I love most is that it's doing the work for us. Ugh,
Yeah.
I can't, really, my motto is work smarter, not harder. So I am all in, Wes.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. We're really excited about that feature, and I know we're going to talk more about it in our upcoming webinars that you mentioned there. So definitely stay tuned. Come back for those. We'll really dive deep into that, but we're very excited because I think it's going to reveal job opportunities that a candidate may not have otherwise known to look for because
mhm,
of that job title limitation. You go on ZipRecruiter, as I did to grab this. I searched by job title at the top of the candidate's resume. This candidate may have so many other skills, and instead of having to reverse engineer the resume to match the job description, we're going to be showing job descriptions that already are a good match for your resume based on the skill set. So, really excited
right.
about that.
Which is helpful because then we're less concerned about, should I play around with the job title changing to match the job title at this company, when in fact the ATS will be giving me high credit and credibility for the things I've actually done, and less concern about the title I'm trying to match
Yep.
verbatim. So that works out really well. So, I mean, I love this because last week we were looking at HR resumes, right? Which is obviously close to my heart. But I thought this week we would definitely sort of come outside of HR if we could. And looking at this RN resume, I thought was perfect because there are tons of other professions where this tool, ID Resume, can be effective. And I honestly think when I left last week from you, Wes, I was talking to my brother. He works at a recycling plant in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I said, "How did you apply for your job? Did you do it on," like, I had to ask him because really didn't
Yeah.
know. I said, "Did you apply online?" He's like, "Yeah, I applied online." And then they just were acquired by a larger company out of Atlanta, Georgia. I said, "Did they make you apply for your current job?" He's like, "Yeah, we kind of knew we had the job, but we still had to apply. And we had to apply online to their company's job." I went, "Well, even in a merger and acquisition, they're still utilizing that." And I know for companies that are utilizing and maximizing the full capabilities of HRISs, they're
Yep.
then pulling that, your skills and your talents, and now mapping that to career
Yep.
tracking and career laddering. So there's so much more that's possible when you're applying for jobs. But most importantly, it's getting the job, getting the interview, right? And that's what's most important. And again, as I said in the beginning, the goal is to land the interview, then you take over from there. Can you imagine feeling the feeling you get? I'm sure you can if you can relate to passing your resume through, and then envision tailoring your resume for each job that you are sending it through and not getting a word back. That's got to be deflating. And so, what I love about Idea Resume is the ability to have the system give you the recommendations right there on the spot. You make them, you churn it out, and you go from there. But, Wes, can you show me real quick, and everyone else who's watching, how do you make the formatting changes so that an ATS will actually pick it up and respond better? Because that's another thing that gets some resumes in trouble.
Absolutely. Yeah, in this particular resume here, it's pretty good. There's no major issues in this one, and actually, that's a feature we're working on as well simultaneously with the job matching update. We're going to show the candidate each specific issue, and then in most cases, fix it for them.
Mhm.
But in this case, just to give some examples, as I look through this one, that is actually in pretty good shape. They've used standard section headers. I would break these two sections out, education on its own, and then separate certifications into two different headers, because in most applicant tracking systems, they want to categorize those separately. So to make it easier for the system to say education and then certifications separately. Beyond that, I'm just glancing to this one in real time with you. The dates are good, and then for their professional experience, yeah, they use professional experience. That's a great starter heading there. Sometimes in resumes, you'll see clever or different non-standard section headers. Professional experience or work experience is the best because an ATS is looking for something it can recognize. So that
Mhm.
is really good. And they haven't separated out their skills into a separate skills section, which is in most cases good. So yeah, and this one's pretty good. I have a couple other resumes that you were submitted to that we could pull out a couple of suggestions on formatting, I think.
Awesome. So we'll definitely jump into that. But before we leave this one last point, let's say you uploaded this resume and the score was 59.
Hmm.
And even with all the suggestions, if this resume, if you did everything and then everything got green lighted and the final score with all green checks was 62, does that mean that the resume inherently does not match enough of the skills when it comes to comparing it to the job description that was compared, the resume and that job description?
Yeah, great question. It can. It could also end up being there's a lot of things that we're doing in the background when we run the analysis that we haven't yet presented to the user. We're building that out more and more over time. But part of it is that if a job description has a requirement for a certain number of years of experience, for example, let's say it
Mhm.
says 5+ years experience as, and I'm going to look for a random skill here in this candidate's resume. Well, actually, let's use the one they had missing. They had wound care. Let's just say, not saying this would be naturally in a job description, but it said 5+ years experience with wound care or any other skill. If I
Mhm.
had taken that skill and only listed it off in a separate skills section somewhere in this resume and not within the work history, that could significantly lower my score because an ATS is looking to associate the skill with dates. So, for example, they have clinical nurse manager from 2019 to present. So that any skill listed here is going to give them about 2 years of experience there. Whereas if it wasn't there, it might say zero experience because the ATS cannot then quantify the total experience with that skill. So different little nuances like that can lead to a lower score, even if you technically have all of the skills in your resume. Um, but if you get all green lights here and your score is still low, if you've added skills you were missing, you've definitely given yourself an improvement from where you started for sure.
Awesome. I love it. All right, Wes. So let's get to the next resume. Who do we have next?
Let's see. I've got a few lined up here across the top. That was our clinical nurse manager that we just did.
Okay.
Let's take a look at this one here. Um, Actually, I think this was the next one in the line here. Yeah, we've got this one lined up here. So we're going to grab this one and see what we can do. This is the one that I said I was thinking is a good example of some formatting things that we could do to make it easier for this candidate's resume to get past the ATS.
Okay.
And a quick tip is actually what I'm doing right now is trying to copy and paste the text of the resume. And
Uh-huh.
if you struggle with that, I actually had to delete a section that had a image over top of it that was a nice, very aesthetically pleasing decorative outline to it, but
Mhm.
it prevented me from being able to go copy and paste it. So I've pre-deleted that. Before we were showing it, you can see the bottom of it right there.
Mhm.
But things like that, if you go try it out yourself, go copy paste your resume and you can't because of graphics, that should be the first red flag to say, okay, I need to simplify my format. And I would say this too, candidates could take this approach. They could have two versions of their resume. One that they might have very aesthetically pleasing, looks really attractive for the eye, and they can use that one if they know they're handing it off to a human. So if you're emailing it directly to somebody or you happen to be in person at a career fair and you're passing it off, use a nice decorative resume. But if you're submitting it online and you know a piece of software needs to be able to digest and categorize all of the text in it, go for the simplest, most common format of a resume that you can. Avoid the graphics and columns and things like that.
Yeah. Same with the career summary and the skill set section. Stay away from that. Make sure that those skills are listed within the professional or work experience section because the ATS does not recognize that career skills or summary section. While human beings love it, it's not a section that ATSs recognize because just as Wes said, ATSs want to give you experiential credit, right? Credit by way of experiential years, months for that experience, right? If the organization says they want 2+ years, they are asking their ATS to help them quantify it. And there's no way to do that if you have a separate section with bullet points that say bookkeeping, right? QuickBooks. Those words need to end up in the places and sections in the employment areas where you've done those things. Give the pretty one to human beings on the day of your interview if it makes you feel better.
Yep, absolutely. So I'm queuing up a job description here for that resume now, with that said, and those particular tips that could help out in terms of formatting. And I was just glancing at them, no particular method here. Let's just pull up another one here and see what we've got. Let's try that one, senior logistics manager. So again, I'm taking the job description as though I am a job seeker. I'm going to add that in here to Ideal Resume. And there's our company name. Let's feed that in now. And then we'll go grab the full job description. One other quick tip here as we do this, when you're grabbing the job description, you only want to grab just that, the job description alone. It's very common for a job description to have something like a company about us description before it, or equal opportunity statements below it. Those things you want to avoid so that it doesn't feed in any extraneous skills that don't actually apply to the job description. So if you're using Ideal Resume, take note of that. Yeah, there we go. There's an equal opportunity statement. So we'll leave that part out because that's not the job description. We're going to paste that in. And now let's grab our candidate's resume, which is right here. So let me go copy paste that. As you can see, it's challenging to get that text properly grabbed, which we could fix with modifying some formatting issues there.
Mhm.
I'm just going to go from that point on so it doesn't grab the other part that we don't want. Okay, our resume is in, and let's analyze it and see what we get. So as our score comes up, let's see what we've got. We've got 14 missing skills, a 45% match in this case. Let's see what skills are missing here. So we've got buying and procurement as the first one, RFPs, audit. So yeah, there's a lot of skills in this particular case that are missing from the resume, but
Yeah.
that were found in the job description. So this candidate, obviously only they know what skills they have. So they could go through this list and see, okay, are any of these skills that I possess that I could rightfully include on my resume? And
Mhm.
as they do that, just like in our last example, they would definitely see a change in their score for sure, because there are several missing. And that would also help this as well. So it says the candidate has experience in supply chain and logistics, but that experience is specifically related to management activities or functions, not purchasing. We saw purchasing as one of the skills that was missing, so adding that in could fix that issue.
Mhm.
Candidate lacks experience in information technology. So this one really presents a good opportunity where the candidate themselves, they could kind of review this and see if there's some opportunities where they could add in some of these missing things.
Nice. And what I like is that the system is giving it back to me, right? I mean, I copy paste resume, I copy paste job description, and it literally is telling me, okay, so this is the opportunities that you're missing. Last week I said, we're hanging out and we're having these conversations about resume rule of thumbs, right? And I said to you that even HR folks say this to each other. Well, if you've got 80% of the job description requirements apply, well, who the heck knows what that 80% is? Is it 80% including the special requirements and the skill set? Like, what does that mean, right? Is it also the must haves, nice to haves? It's just way too much. And because the system is doing the math for us, and a lot of times, well, after last week's session, I had some questions that said, well, there's so many systems out there. You said it. Is this supposed to help me with all of them? No. This system is designed, Ideal Resume is designed, just like you said, Wes, to give you a baseline, right?
Yep,
This is designed to give you a leg up. You'll never, ever meet any human being that can get you this close. If you meet
absolutely.
them, you tell us where they are so we can give them all of our money.
Absolutely.
Right, and that's the truth is like you have to combat technology with technology. And that's where we are. And so, dealing with applicant tracking systems within organizations, now having this tool, this is like the job seekers best kept secret, right? And
Yep.
no one's going to say to you, "Well, did you get through?" Right? No employer is going to ask you. What they are going to ask you is, tell me more about your purchasing skills. Tell me more about your logistics skills, right? Tell me more about all of those other skills that you possess. And that's the whole point. And it's thing because I have helped hundreds of people for a fee and for free create resumes. It's interesting how people forget what they do and what they've done. They're not clear on how to translate their skills into what others are asking of them in new positions. And so think about all of the opportunities missed, right? That list you just came up with could have easily bring this 45% resume if he had all the skills. Let's just put in a few of the skills. Let's see what he could score up to.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a really great point, Sana. I think that so many job seekers, particularly those that have been in the workforce for some time, they have done so many things. And sometimes it's hard to think back and go, what have I done? And figure out how to describe that. Having a
Mhm.
list like that can help you brainstorm and figure out, okay, what are the most important things for me to focus on? And then kind of
Yep.
work backward and say, in this case, have I done buying and procurement? Have I done audits? Have I done purchasing? And
Yeah.
in most cases, a candidate is gonna realize, "Actually, I have done that. I did that in this role or that role." And then you, by just that simple exercise, have given yourself a huge advantage from where you started, where your resume may have been missing several key skills.
Absolutely. Hands down.
So I'm gonna
And what
grab a couple of those, like you said, and just add them
Yeah.
in here like we did before. It should be in a logical sentence. We're just gonna put it in here
Mhm.
and see what we can do and how it affects our score. Let's grab buying and procurement as well.
Mhm.
Uh And buying and procurement. And let's just start with that. We can always do it
Yeah.
again. So
Let's
we're at
see.
45 now, and let's just see what happens here.
Mhm.
I probably should have separated out buying and procurement to give it more. We went to 51%. So off to a good start. And we've
Those
still
are
got,
just 2 skills.
yeah, off to
Those
just
are
two
just
skills.
2 skills,
And
right?
imagine if you're one of 500 resumes. I just talked to someone today actually who said that their company was receiving hundreds, several hundreds of resumes for
Mhm.
every job, and that was a company with only a couple hundred employees. So imagine if your resume is one of 300 or 500. The difference between 40, what were we at? 40 something percent and
46.
51
Mhm.
could be the difference between you being on that short list of potential interviewees uh, and not.
Absolutely, especially when I'm telling you, there are always a very unhealthy, intolerable amount of people who just don't qualify at all. You always have the spaghetti throwers, right? The people who shouldn't have applied at all. They don't even qualify 1%. So when you take those folks out, and when I tell you I have gone through stacks of resume out of desperation because it's a hard to fill role, the skill set is very hard. It's not viable in this particular area of the country. I know that. I know that that person has to come from Timbuktu or whatever the case may be. And if I can get you, I start in the 70%, right?
Yep.
I've gotten to the 55% easily. By the time I vet it through and realize that the person or the people in the 70% who remotely qualify didn't realize where the job was, didn't don't have the flexibility. Oh, they didn't understand the role. They don't quite qualify. Their degree is in progress, in process. They're not finished. All of these things that sort of knock candidates out once you start pre-screening, I'm telling you, I've called the 55 percenter. I have. And I have called them in for interviews. So it's interesting how it all works out. there really is no one set formula. The goal with Ideal Resume and any process you endeavor in to make yourself more marketable is to put your best foot forward,
Yep,
because
absolutely.
really and truly you only get one shot, right? You're not going to apply 2 and 3 times for one job. You understand that. And so I hope that you were able to see, if you were here last week and here now this week, that there is power in this technology and in this tool. And we are definitely going to deep dive next week. And I'm excited about the webinars, not only for the content we're going to go into, but also because we are offering you lifetime access to this tool. That means you buy it one time, you never have to buy it again. And if you're anything like us, you'll be working, whether it's for yourself or someone else, for 20 plus years. So, not look, not to taint your evening, but that is to say that you will get miles and miles out of Ideal Resume. But you can buy this lifetime access for less than $100. So, with that said, the only thing you have to do is RSVP for our event. I'm dropping it in the comment section, and you're either going to grab it from the comment section or you're going to go to hrgirlfriends.com and you're going to go to our event section. Pick your date based on your category, whether you're a job seeker or you have job seekers as your audience. If you're a recruiter, a resume writer, or career coach, that will determine which day you come. Stay till the end of the resume webinar and we will make that offer to you. But let's say you sign up and the world comes crashing down that day and you can't attend. The only other way to gain access to the lifetime deal is to be on the mailing list for HR Girlfriends. There is no other way, because immediately once the webinar closes, an email is going to go out to everyone who is on the mailing list already. That means if you're not already on the mailing list by midnight the day before, you will not get the email inviting you for this lifetime deal. So those are two ways that you can gain access to this deal. And once it goes out, we will not communicate it. You cannot call us, you cannot email us. Those are the only two ways. And as much as I love the community, we have to draw boundaries, and those are the two boundaries. So, Wes and I have really worked hard to think about what would serve you best. And I'm excited for this one because you're going to gain lifetime access to this bad boy. And like I said last week, I bought groceries that cost more, and I only had 4 bags, and they cost more than what you're going to pay for lifetime access to Ideal Resume. So I'm excited about that. I hope that you're excited. Feel free to tell your friends about the lifetime access once you gain access, but you'll only have 24 hours to purchase. So you've got to get ready. If it's not your payday, ask your friends, borrow from your mom, tell her it's for good use, tell her to help you get off her couch, and then we'll do it. So, as always, Wes, I enjoyed my time with you.
Same to you,
Uh,
Sana. It was wonderful.
I know, right?
I was just gonna
Resumes.
add that the lifetime deal, the other great part is that we are making lots of updates in the weeks to come. You will benefit from all future updates of Ideal Resume. It's not a static product. We will be adding all kinds of enhancements as time goes on. You're gonna get the benefits right now, but the
Mhm.
lifetime deal, you will be grandfathered into all future updates, which will just be, we're really excited about a lot of them. So just wanted to add that in too.
Absolutely. So for job seekers, you'll never be behind the 8 ball when it comes to getting your dream job. You'll always be in the technology realm of getting the best job, landing the interview. And for those who have the audience of job seekers, you're going to have access to a revenue stream you did not know was possible. And I'm going to show you how. And I'll actually give you a sneak peek into how my mind thinks when I run into technology like this. So you will not want to miss next week's or the week after, right? The webinar, December 14th and the 15th. But we're not going to hold you. We hope you have a great evening. Thank you for joining us tonight, and we'll talk to you really soon. Bye, guys. Take care.
Bye bye.
Thanks
Thank
again,
you, Sana.
Wes.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Bye.